What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of MUT Tips. I'm your host, Sean Taylor from the Made Up Theater, and let's jump into today's topic, physicality online. One of the biggest benefits of improvising online via Zoom or Google Hangouts or Skype is that we're not just restricted to our surrounding regions, right? I'm from Fremont, California, which means I could take a class easily in Chicago or LA or even overseas without spending a bunch of money on flight and room and board and all that stuff, right? It's very much within my grasp. And, one of the biggest resistance to improvising on Zoom is just being stuck in this little box, right? It's difficult and it requires getting adjusted to it. A lot of people are thinking, I'll just wait until, theaters are back open and I can improvise on the stage. And I say, take the opportunity right now, because once theaters are back open, I hope this doesn't go away. I'd like to see people invest in it more because there's a lot of unique opportunities to, adjust to. And the fear of it is we're going out of our comfort zone. And it's always weird when you go out of your comfort zone at first, but once you start improvising out of your comfort zone, you become accustomed to it, and thus it feels more natural. So let's get into some physical aspects when we utilize software such as Zoom. When I teach my first classes to people who have not improvised on Zoom much or at all, is be okay just improvising in your chair for right now. Don't worry about the physical aspects. In fact, a lot of the scenes that I drive forward on the first day are aimed more towards embracing the platform, doing scenes set in kind of this atmosphere where maybe you're on a first date with somebody via a video conferencing software, or you're having a Zoom meeting or a Zoom family reunion. Play to it and just focus on that because it feels natural at that point rather than improvising as though we're in the same room together. But as we build up to it, then I say, hey, let's start to flex our muscles a little bit and improvise differently, right? So first of all, it's all about setting your space, okay? I don't enforce it though, I recommend people see if they can get themselves in a situation where they can actively stand up if they need to, okay? So have a clear, your own personal stage behind you within the area that you're improvising in so that you have some freedom to move around, so you can actually move backwards against the wall, maybe behind you, or to the right or left, and you have freedom and you don't have any, issues with foreign objects in your way or anything like that, right? So set your stage up a little bit too. That might involve elevating your webcam, which means you might need to stack your laptop on some books or put it on a shelf or something. Be creative with it. But again, it's not something I ever enforce. I want people to be comfortable when they're improvising on Zoom. So if you'd much rather sit, you can still find great ways to be physical in a seated position as well as standing. All right, so I'm on my feet right now. I've made a little space for me, pushed my green screen back. Sorry for the messy surrounding behind it. But now we're gonna get into just a few ways we can utilize our space. So a lot of people say to me, oh man, improvising on Zoom sounds terrible. You feel confined, right? Well, let me prove to you right now that improvising on Zoom has its benefits. Watch what I can do here that I cannot do on the stage. Oh, I think I'm gonna go downstairs and grab some coffee. Pretty cool, right? You can do stuff like this now, and all you gotta do is just be a little creative. The benefit about improvising on Zoom is that the audience's perspective is now different. They actually are seeing stuff from our point of view rather than their own seated point of view in the audience. A great TV show is a show that's called Peep Show, where the perspective of the entire TV show is through the eyes of others. That's what's happening now. It's more of a static point of view, rather than dynamic, which means obviously the camera isn't moving based on how our eyes are moving, but we are still showing the audience our point of view. And that's a cool thing that they don't get from the benefit of watching a show in an actual theater. So let's start with playing to the camera, okay? Playing to the camera is a little bit interesting because the camera is essentially your scene partner a lot of the times. So, for example, if I get close like this, it indicates maybe some intimacy, or maybe I'm telling you a secret, okay? And if I'm more further back, as far as I can go, I can even go further. I'm a little bit constricted by my green screen. As you can see, this shows a little bit of a difference. It shows maybe some timidness, shyness, fear. All that with proximity to the camera is going to help define your character. Now, just make sure is when you are playing more to the back of your space, the one thing that you need to be aware of is that you're further away from your microphone, okay? Some people have those wireless microphones, which come in the form of like AirPods, for example. I'm not using that, but you know what? There's some comedy that can come from this. Like, for example, if there's two improvisers who are like, maybe like this, telling a little secret, and I'm the third improviser and I'm way back here, there's kind of some humor in the fact that I'm away from my microphone because I could say something like, hey, what are you guys talking about over there, huh? You know, and that kind of just heightens the fun of this secret between two characters where one person is left out. There's also great fun to be had from how your body is conveyed on stage, right? Sometimes a fun, like, actual setup for your image on the screen can just be not being in the image, right? Like, maybe you're off to the side and you might say, hey, Larry, you paid your rent, right? You know? I mean, that's kind of funny because it's more of an off-stage remark rather than actually seeing me on stage asking that. There's some humor in that from a distant voice who you can't see. Or even doing something like this. Hey boys, lemonade's ready in the living room. You know, just popping your head in like that. That is also something that is humorous that we cannot always achieve on the stage. And also, you can play around with just like maybe your height, right? Something that I showed last time is, this may not work totally, but just crouching down or being on your knees, that can indicate a child now. Whereas on stage, I always say never play a child on your knees because it just looks strange and it also restricts you physically. But in this realm, you know, I can play a little child either crouched down or on my knees based on the placement of my camera. And this is, you know, more fun is to be had with this type of character. And you can even play around with it also of just like, you know, maybe you take your head out of the shot, you know? I'm gonna prop myself up because my camera's kinda high, but I can do like a character like this, you know? It sounds like I'm about to fall. It sounds like kind of like, seems like it's a mistake, but I can do a deliberate character where my face is never in the shot. Like I'm this tall character, right? Hey, you know, I've never met somebody who's okay with me being 10 foot tall. You know, that's a fun thing that we can play with too. One thing I really want to emphasize when improvising on a video conferencing software like Zoom is to slow it down, okay? Sometimes on stage we improvise too fast, but the thing about improvising too fast on Zoom is it sometimes appears choppy. Some people's internet connection may be fast or may be slow. Sometimes you'll see people improvising and like if they're doing a fast motion, it just looks like a big blur because they have more choppy internet connection, which causes like a frame rate issue, right? So slowing it down, otherwise it just doesn't get an idea across to your scene partner as well as to the audience. So keep it nice and slow, okay? Slow and deliberate, whether it's object work or a dance. Like I've seen some people dance on Zoom and they're just going so fast that they just look like the Tasmanian devil spinning around. But if you do like a slower dance, like slow, deliberate dance like this, and then that is a little bit more fun to play with, right? Because it can go into a slow, deliberate character rather than going like this, and then now you're just a blurred mess on your camera feed, right? So go slow and steady so that we can focus on strong communication with our... I want to touch on physicality with your scene partner, because again, your scene partner is not in the room, but you can convey physicality and touch with your scene partner over Zoom. By just putting my hand near the camera, it looks like I'm putting my hand on your shoulder and like maybe giving you some brotherly advice. Like, hey, you know what? Just go out there, give it your all, bro. You know? And that's something that is shown based on me acting as though the camera is my scene partner, okay? Or like both hands, like this, right? It can indicate maybe a hug, or like maybe we're slow dancing back and forth. It's strange, right? It's really odd, but it's something that we get accustomed to. And when we get accustomed to it through action, it's no longer weird, it's normal. An exercise that's great to play is by improvising in two-person scenes and utilizing either mirroring or opposites, okay? And use your stage picture, your position, your physicality to inspire what those mirroring and opposites are going to be. So for example, maybe two people start a scene, but they're both really close to the camera like this. That's mirroring this position. Or maybe one person's close to the camera and the other person's way back up against the wall. That would be an opposite thing. And of course, for mirroring, two people could be up against the wall as they do a scene. That would be mirroring, and the other would be opposite. Another example would be for mirroring, like maybe two people do a scene and they're both off to the side, not in view of the camera, just talking as though they're not in the same room together, okay? Or one person is in the room and the other person's off to the side. That would be a fun scenario where you can discover, premises for your improvised scene just through your body positioning. Another example for mirroring would be like, maybe there's like two children, right? I'm kneeling down. So that could be a fun scene, us as kids, or just us, with this type of height to the camera. Or for mirroring two people whose heads are not in the shot. And for opposites, one person's low and one person's high. Play around with different types of scenarios that are inspired by, mirroring and opposites. There's great fun to be had by either mirroring or finding a way to be inspired through an opposite action. Try it. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of MUT Tips. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, like it down below. As you can see right now, I'm gearing my MUT Tips more towards improvising online. So if you have a specific question, let me know in the comments. I'd love to address it in a future video. Also, subscribe on YouTube to be informed of upcoming videos. In addition to MUT Tips, we do other stuff here. So subscribe. That's the best way to figure it out. And MUT Tips, hey, this is like episode 72, I think. So we have a bunch of the other videos. Go check them out online on our YouTube page. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you next time for another episode of MUT Tips. Bye.